Welcome, everybody. We hope you are doing well because this is the Grow Ortho live stream, and I am one of your hosts, Zach Dykes, joined by Adele Osorio, one of HIP's very own onboarding specialists. Welcome to the show, Adele.
Thanks for having me, Zach. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am excited for you to be here, Adele, because we've got a great show planned for us. Everybody, let us know where you're from and what you're excited to hear about today's live stream, because we're going to be talking about some amazing follow-up stuff today. We're going to be fixing 3 profit leaks, okay? Unscheduled observation patients, no shows, and unanswered calls. We'll show you the exact numbers to watch for, a simple follow-up cadence that fills your schedule, and a phone script that converts every ring into revenue. Patch the leaks, and you'll add 6 figures without chasing a single new lead, because my gosh, chasing new leads, you know what I mean? It's like when you got all that money just sitting in there, just waiting on you. Waiting on you, Adele. So, Adele, before we jump into the meat and potatoes of everything, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your experience within the orthodontic industry.
Well, I can say orthodontics is a real passion of mine, and I started out as a treatment coordinator. That was about 2017, and I fell in love with it from the get-go, to be honest. And I luckily was working with a doctor that was passionate about explaining step by step and had really great systems in place at the time. And from being a treatment coordinator, rolled into marketing coordinator, and then rolled into management, and got to really jump in deep on some things. And, as that progressed, I think I fell more in love with orthodontics. And from that point, just wanted to challenge myself a little bit further and found myself here at HIP, now working with several orthodontists, and I love it.
Well, we're glad to have you on the team, because your expertise, everything you're bringing is elevating our partners. You're bringing your genius, and I'm excited for today's show. If you haven't already, make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to comment some good stuff. We're here. We're going to be answering questions. If you have any questions, please let us know, because it's going to be a great stream today, and I'm looking forward to it, because we come to you live almost every week with tons of amazing content. And we also put out an amazing podcast, the Grow Ortho podcast. And we just launched a new podcast, the Grow Dental podcast. So we're answering a ton of questions. We're giving a ton of value away for free each and every week. And I am so excited for this. So, Adele, some practices are sitting on like 500K. That's kind of crazy, and they don't even know about it. How does cash hide in plain sight like that within a practice?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, systems are important, and having an eye on the health of the practice is really important. So you got to be running reports on the regular, but to have money sitting in your pocket unattended to, you want to take a really good look at your observation program.
I love that, because I feel like chasing leads, new leads, is on the edge of everybody's mind. But the people that said, well, I need to go talk to my spouse, or, not right now, or they might have not answered the call, that right there seems like, oh, well, they're not interested, I'm not going to worry about it. But what's the silent cost of ignoring the ones you already have got in your pipeline?
Well, the thing about observation is that it's a no-brainer. It's easy. They already like you. They've been coming to you, and you should have a rapport built up. So there shouldn't really be a reason for them to go elsewhere. And we tend to lose that when we're not tending to them and we're not building that value. So if they're not scheduling their next appointment to come back, or don't understand why they're coming in the first place for these observation appointments, you're losing them.
I know Dr. Ann Gorzica, we had her on the podcast a year or so ago, and she literally took over just calling her observation column. And she was like, it sounds weird that the doctor is doing this, but she's like, I proved to myself that what we consider calling too much was not enough. And she called someone upwards of 30 times, just,
Yeah.
checking on them and trying to get them in. And when they finally came in, she was like, how many times do you think we called you? And they're like, maybe like 12. But she called upwards of 30 times. And it's like having that mindset shift is huge because most teams
Mhm.
quit calling after 2 attempts. They're like, I don't want to bother them. But
Right.
what's the magic follow-up number before conversation and conversion starts to skyrocket?
I don't know if there's a magic number, and I do remember listening to that podcast and resonating with that so much. I feel like I listened to it yesterday, so it's crazy that was a year ago. But I think it's important to be consistent, is really going to be your key, because if you call once, they don't answer, call the next day. Change up your communication, send a message, send an email. I recall sending postcards out, even, like, how
Mm,
can I reach you? What's going to work here? And eventually you're going to get connected, but it's going to take more than two. And I would be willing to bet that on an average, it's probably about 15 to 20 touch points if they've really run stagnant. If you've got somebody who hasn't been to your practice in over a year, it's going to take some legwork. But if you're making a touch point once a month or once a week, you're probably not going to get it.
yeah. And in this day and age, there's no telling how many
Hmm.
notifications that I get on my phone on the daily. And I've
Right.
turned off a ton of notifications, but I still get a bunch. And I have a ton of unread emails and
Hmm.
texts. Even people that I want to talk to, I still don't reply to their texts because I get inundated so
Yeah.
easily. And it's the same way with our customers. If we act that way,
Hmm.
that potential patient is probably going to act that way as well.
Oh, yeah.
So
People are busy. They've got to schedule a to do list, right? Everybody does.
yeah, and family, friends, whatever they're wanting to
Mhm.
do, it's like you've got to take that into account. And, this isn't the 1950s, so you have to market like it's 2025. You have to think like people in
Yeah.
2025. But, we're talking about people are busy. They'll call us back, which I think that is almost insanity.
Mhm.
Why is that mindset a revenue killer, Adele?
Well, it's a killer because it's not gonna happen, and so if you're relying on someone else to remember that they need this appointment, or, remember that you called and that you said, "Oh, they're gonna give me a call back," it's not gonna happen, it's not realistic. We get, like you said, we get too focused, too tunneled into that to-do list and what's going on, what's the next step, what do I have to get to next? It's just not gonna happen. So when we have that mindset of, "Oh, they said they're gonna call back. I've already called twice. I don't wanna call again. I don't wanna bother them."
Mm,
That's You're just shutting the door. It's really, you're not gonna get anywhere. I mean, maybe don't give them a call again that afternoon, but reach back out the next day and maybe send it as a text message, since we know in this day and age that that tends to be the way to communicate with people, right? You can try to call 100 times, maybe not get an answer, send a text message, and boom, all of a sudden you're in communication. So yeah, it's a really poor mindset to have in thinking they're going to call me back. If they don't know that value, if they don't understand the importance of having that appointment, it's not going to happen. It's not their job.
yeah, and it's like you're having to
Yeah.
convince them that this is worth them spending
Mhm.
time and money. And I'm a millennial, and I know most millennials hate talking on the phone. So it's like if you're trying to get with like millennials or younger, it's like text us. I don't want to talk to
Yeah.
you. Just text me and we'll take care of business. But if I have to jump on a call, it's like I go through all like, you know what I mean? It's like you start living in your head and it's like, oh,
You
well,
do.
so it's like if you just take that step, it's like text them, email them,
Mhm.
send a carrier pigeon, whatever you got to do. Just, try something different if one form of communication isn't working. But let's
Mhm.
switch over to observation. You talk about observation patients being like an uncashed check. Can you kind of break down that metaphor so everybody can understand what you mean by that?
Sure. So, observation in that program, and several of the listeners here know exactly what that is, but You either have someone who came in, had phase one, and now they're in this sweet spot to wait until we can get into phase two, or it's someone who came in and they're just not ready yet for whatever reason. Maybe that dentition is just kind of mixed and we can't do a full treat and we can't do a phase one. So, either way, they've come in, they've met you, and they've had the opportunity to make this relationship. Observation allows them to come in every 6 months or every 5 months, whatever that system looks like for you guys. But they're coming in and they need that value in that appointment, because if they don't, they're really not looking to come back in. They don't understand why they're coming in the first place. So building that value is really important. Yeah, you got to build up the value, and then having them come in, appointment after appointment is going to then internally make an easy yes for when it comes to that time for a consultation, and it is go time. So it really is, it's like a little piggy bank, right? You've got your check and it's sitting in your hand. Well, that's them coming into that appointment. And then you got to go to the bank. So that's when you get to cash your check in. So if you've just got a check in your hand, you don't really have that money, right? You got to go to the bank and cash it in. You've got a new patient who's come in, or you've got someone who just finished up phase one and they're in that sweet spot of waiting. Well, you don't really have that money. You haven't really cashed them in. You got to take them to the bank, but we need to build the value in between to get them to that consultation, to get them to say yes, and to get them to move forward. So they're just a check sitting there in your hand in the meantime. They're not actually cash in your hand until you've checked it in.
It's like building any kind of relationship. Like when my wife and I were dating, if I would have been like, it's in the bag, and I stopped texting her, I stopped hanging out with her, I stopped calling her, interacting in all forms. It's like, well, I know she likes me.
But you're not nurturing it.
But I'm not nurturing that relationship. And the same thing goes for our observation list. It's like you've got to be actively building that rapport that they're not just a walking paycheck, that they are a person, that you care about them, because that's all people really want in this day and age. Because the patients already know and like you. So why do so many of these patients fall through the cracks?
It's a failure of a system is really what it is. If you've got an observation appointment and you're not scheduling their next appointment to come back in and not building that value as to why they need to come in for that next appointment, failure, right? If they call and they cancel, hey, I can't make this observation appointment, we need to reschedule. Maybe we can't get rescheduled right then and there, but if we're not then following up and tending to that, they're just sitting there lingering, waiting. Oh, I canceled. I don't remember why I have to go anyways. This isn't important. You're going to lose them.
Yeah, you have to provide the value, because they're not going to understand. So schedule rate really tells the real story within all of this. So what number should make every owner sit up straight when they hear that?
So if you're pulling a report and you want to see how many of my observation appointments are actually scheduled, if you're sitting at 80%, you're doing really well. If you're under 80%, you need to start working that pipeline for sure. I'd love to say have it set higher than 80%, but 80% I think is a sweet spot to say you're doing okay.
So let's talk about some data, okay? Kind of going off of that. You open a report, there's like 500 ops patients. 200 are unscheduled. What's your very first move, Adele?
Pick up the phone. Definitely pick up the phone. That's a great question. If you're looking at a total of 500 sitting in there and you've got 200 that aren't tended to, I think one thing to evaluate is when was their last appointment, right? Because if it's been over a year, they're going to take way more touch points. So I would start working the individuals that are less than that year time frame, right? Maybe they haven't been there in 6 months and they've only missed the one appointment. They're still very fresh. It's that fresh check handed over, right? So we want to try to get them scheduled. We want to nurture whatever value we've provided in that previous appointment and making sure that they don't fall off the radar. And then you want to jump into reaching out to the ones that have started to run a little bit more colder and they've lost out on, 2 appointments, or it's been even more than that, because they're going to be harder to rope back in, but that value is still there. They're not a lost opportunity, and we still want to give them a call, but it's going to take more than a phone call, a text message, an email, and a postcard.
Yeah, it's rebuilding that
Mhm.
relationship. Again, anybody that's ever had a relationship with anybody, friend, romantic, whatever, it is a process, and it is going beyond just like, oh, well, this is easy for me. This is,
Mhm.
convenient for me. Sometimes doing the inconvenient things go so much further than you would ever realize.
Oh, yeah, so much further. And if you really just nurture it from the start, you don't end up in that pickle.
Yeah, you don't have to
Yeah.
bend over backwards and turn yourself into a pretzel. So let's talk
Mhm.
about who owns the list here. We've got doctors, we've got office managers, TC. They all have stakes in this, but who should be running the unscheduled list day to day?
Yeah, I think that's a couple of hands on deck. Your treatment coordinator who's overseeing the observation is first on deck. She should know, or he should know, exactly what those numbers are, and be nurturing to try to get those scheduled. However, I would say you should also tap in your scheduling team, right? That's what they're there for. So
Hmm.
I would be tapping them in, but your doctor should also be well aware of what those numbers are. And it doesn't need to be a daily kind of report, but I'd say at minimum, at least once a month, to say, hey, this is how many observation patients we have, and this is the percent that's not scheduled right now. You got to be
Yeah,
in the loop.
yeah, and it's like having that because you're building a system of accountability. It's not just one person's job. Everybody is pitching in,
Mhm.
everyone is holding each other accountable. And I know a lot of people tend to see the word accountability in the wrong way. It's like, no, you're doing this because you care. You're doing this because you want to perform your best. So let's talk
Right.
about some systems and accountability. So inspecting without micromanaging, how often should leadership audit these KPIs?
Um, that is a pretty great question because you don't want to micromanage. And I think your best workaround that is always offering to help. Because when I think you show that you're a team player, it's never going to feel like you're micromanaging. But I think that you should be on the know of that on the weekly and just checking in with your treatment coordinator, checking in with the scheduling team, right? Because it's going to go way beyond observation. There's scheduling for, how many people are we reaching out to and pending, and how many people no showed, and what are we doing for this and that. So I think as a leadership role, you should have eyes on all of that reporting weekly, and you should always offer to help when it starts to accumulate.
Yeah, Dr. Bryce talks a lot about spot checking
Mhm.
and offering to help, spot checking where it's like, hey, how's the pending column going? You're just asking, you're not like in this crisis mode. You don't wait until there is a
Right.
crisis. That right there, it's like when your checking account is like, getting a little tight and you're like, you start feeling like I shouldn't check it. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to check it because
That's when you need to check it.
that's when you need to check it the
Yeah.
most. And it's like so many times doctors, they're doing so much. They've got so many things on
Mhm.
their plate. And it's like, well, if I check that, then I'm going to get, worried about this, or I'm going to have more stress on me. It's like, but maybe, you checking it, that's showing, hey, I care about what you're doing. What help can I give you? Who can I, put you with on the team that can make this more successful? It's really empowering the team.
It is. And, Harrison always says people respect what you inspect. So just having a quick report handy to look at, you don't necessarily have to say something, but at least you're in the know and aware. But at least once a month, your treatment coordinator should be coming to you to say, hey, this is how many we have, and this is how many are not scheduled, just to have that transparent conversation.
Yeah. And you can be like, hey, you're crushing it on
Right.
obs or pending list or whatever it is. It's like, you don't have to just address it when it's bad.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think giving a good attaboy is always welcome and appreciated.
So let's talk about some re-engagement options. I know there's a lot of different options out there. Email blast, there's
Mhm.
calls, there's a text drip and everything. Which tactic do you feel wins fastest and why?
It's 100% text message. Uh, like you said, people don't want to get on the phone.
Yep. Yep.
I think those phone calls, though, are valid and it gives you
Hmm.
an opportunity to possibly reach somebody. You know, if you're calling my husband, he's probably going to answer the phone. Me, on the other hand, it is going to be text message. And I think that's a good portion of people nowadays is communication is a lot easier. It's at your fingertips and you can jump into the next thing and you're not tied for whatever portion of time out of your day on a phone call. But I'd lean on text message and I would utilize phone call, even if you have to leave a voicemail, because it does provide a very personal touch. But if you can't get connected, you got to lean in on text message.
Yeah. It's making sure you're hitting all the different touch
Hmm.
points because it's it continues to get larger on how many touch points that you have to give. It
Hmm.
was 17, then it's 14, and then like I think because our like attention spans are less than a goldfish now, it's literally like
Yeah.
8 seconds and theirs is nine. It's like you have to reach people in different ways and different forms, and
Yeah.
being able to do that is huge because you're actually going to get people to call back. And that's the whole
Hmm.
point of doing this. You're not just doing this to get a better secret shop score, you know?
Right. And every couple of days, I think it's great to give two touch points, right? Make a phone call in the morning, in the afternoon, maybe you try to make another call, or maybe you do a text message instead. But it allows for that number to register. And oh, yeah, they called me earlier. Or oh, yeah, I got a message earlier. And they recognize, and it's a little bit easier to get connected, I think, when you give two touch points in a day. I wouldn't do that every day, though.
That see that
Yeah.
those are those golden nuggets right there. Don't be
Yeah.
you know that busybody person that just like just
Hmm.
keeps popping up. You're just like, oh my God, I want to block them. You know, so don't be
Right.
that type. But let's talk about missed calls. I know we've talked about odds
Hmm.
and all of that, but missed calls in general equals missed revenue. And
Absolutely.
let's like 10 missed calls a day could equal up to like $15,000
Hmm.
lost. How do you plug that leak tomorrow if you were in an office?
I think having phone recorded systems is amazing. And the technology and programs that are out there just give such great perspective for you. A lot of them allow you to pull that reporting. So when you see that you've got a few missed calls, that's one thing. But your team needs to understand that every phone call coming in is an opportunity for a new patient, an opportunity for growth. And when you have that mindset, you're less likely to miss those calls. And the perspective of that growth is also fielding their bonuses, right? So we don't want to miss calls. We don't want to miss
Mm,
opportunities. And you want to have goals. I mean, systems in place are important in really every aspect. And so you should have a goal. And then find a way to celebrate it. I remember my goal was 90%. I wanted 90%. I really wanted nothing less than that. And I would pull random phone calls and listen to, a call here and there. And hey, you did a great job. And hey, I want to share this. Do you mind? Because everyone needs to hear how great this was. So when you give that motivation and you start to filter a system, it allows you to plug that leak. Because if you approach that and say, hey, we only answered 70% of these calls. We got a really big problem. Well, your team's not necessarily going to be motivated, right? Because we're
mhm.
kind of coming in with a hammer. So I think you need to approach that and saying, this is our goal. And you need to nurture that goal by providing motivation for your team and sharing the attaboys here and there. And so your first approach really is to make sure that you, one, have enough designated front desk team members, right? And is it reasonable to say that two people can answer, the average amount of phone calls we're getting Monday through Thursday? Or maybe on Tuesday at 3 o'clock, it's crazy busy and we really should have a third person. All right, well, let's get a part time person and let's plug and play so that things can actually run effectively and that your team isn't stressed, they feel supported, and that we're not missing any phone calls. So, having the ability to have those phone recording systems that give you all that great reporting allows you to know what you need on deck, where those busy points are, and allows you to also provide motivation for your team.
I that right there just it just goes to show you it's like when you know what to look for, it just makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And Practice Beacon is a great tool to
It
start
is.
using. VoIP systems, of course, like knowing what your answer rate is going to
Mhm.
set you up for so much success. I know we talk about it, and it might be even more at this point, but if you miss one phone call a day, and it's
Yeah,
someone that would start over a year, that's $1 million lost in
exactly.
revenue.
So every phone call, every single one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like if you again going to the bonus structure, the if you reward the actions that you want to take. Of course, you don't say,
Mhm.
"Oh, you answered a phone call. Here's $10 to Starbucks." It's like, no, you don't do
Right.
that. You set the goal. It's like, they have to schedule, they have to come in. You put
Mhm.
things in place, but you're rewarding the action that you want to see over and over again. And as that becomes commonplace, you can move the goal a little bit further. And it's everybody's working on that because the front desk is the gate to your practice, but it
Yeah.
takes everybody, records going smoothly, TCs being able to convert, and then them to have an awesome time in the back with the
Mhm.
clinic.
Yeah. And, if that phone call isn't a pleasure kind of conversation, it's going to be harder to get people scheduled too. So I think the tonality and the conversation and the perspective of your staff being happy and wanting to call is what you want, which is why that motivation is so important.
So let's talk about energy selling then.
Yeah.
What kind of like voice shift, that like tone shift that actually helps show rates on the spot?
So while in practice, I would always say it with a smile. And I think it works. I think it's a,
Oh
a
yeah.
great, a great trick, right? Because people can tell the difference. You can listen to a phone call and it's like, are you enjoying your day? Like, am I an inconvenience to you? But when you say it with a smile, it doesn't sound that way. So I
Yep.
think tonality wise, you don't have to throw glitter and sparkle out there, sure, but you at least need to be engaging and pleasant to speak with. So say it with a smile when you're on the phone.
Yeah, and it's you bringing the right energy could shift someone's whole day. Like they could be
Absolutely.
having an awful day, and it's like, oh, I gotta call the dentist. I
Well,
gotta
and
call
the
the orthodontist, and it's
yes,
like I don't want to talk to Marge. You know what I mean? And like if they're dreading that, they're not going to want to call.
exactly. And then they're not going to want to schedule, and then you're never getting the check to the bank, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and like we had Julie Foster on from our team that's on our scheduling team,
Mhm.
and just talking to her, like the way she just it just feels like you're sitting down with a good friend, and
Yeah.
by the time you're already done, you're scheduled, you know everything that you're supposed to, but it doesn't feel like you've been tricked or you've been beaten or bludgeoned or anything like that. It's you feel good about the
Right.
experience.
It's a good intentional conversation. And something that we need to be really mindful of is who's on the other line, right? Not everybody that's calling the dentist or calling the orthodontic practice is excited. There are several patients out there, potential patients out there that, this is a long haul for them. There's a heartstring in there, there's a pain point, right? And they're not excited. Yeah, they want to get to the end point, but maybe there's been some kind of trauma in the mix of it. So you've got to be able to read the room too.
Yeah, and being able to read the room, being able to connect with them, make them feel
Mhm.
seen, because like more people would rather die than go to the dentist. Like they have that big of a fear. It's like they're
Yeah.
more afraid of the dentist than dying. That says a lot.
Yeah, it does. I met somebody on my son's soccer team who mentioned that she has a grown adult, right? But she's got to be put under just to have her teeth cleaned because her anxiety just kicks in so rough. And I thought, wow, I'm like, I can't wait to go to the dentist. Do I get a sticker this time?
Well, I know we talk front desk,
Mhm.
receptionist. I went to the ENT today, and the the experience was very lacking. I waited like
Uh-oh.
45 minutes and all of that stuff. But what would you say like sets apart a front desk person
Mhm.
at an orthodontist compared to just your run of the mill receptionist?
Yeah, I think orthodontics is an experience. And whether you're coming in because this is a tough situation or it's something you've always wanted or you've always wanted for your kid, it's an experience. And the first face, the first person you're talking to is at the front desk. And so I think in orthodontics, we have such a privilege to build that connection when you're on the phone and you're scheduling that new patient consultation, or maybe you're following up from observation. But regardless, when you're on the phone, you have the ability to almost make a really good friendship out of it, right? And make some personal notation, right? Maybe they tell you, oh, I'm getting married and I really want to get my teeth fixed, or whatever it may be. And so you have that chance to build a personable connection. And then they're coming in and they're on this journey with you, and it's an experience. And at the end of it, you were a huge part of it. So I think that's the best mindset to have around that.
So, what would be a simple kind of, not necessarily a script, but a flow
Mhm.
that someone could implement tomorrow in their practice?
For like a new patient phone call?
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously you want to say who you are and welcome, them into the practice. Thanks for, calling HIP Orthodontics, and what can I help you with today? Right? Because one, we don't necessarily know, are they interested in Invisalign? Are they interested in braces? Is this a hard case, easy case, whatever it may be? So you're going to go through and gathering all that information, but what's going to bring you in? What kind of treatment are we interested in is a great question to ask. But then setting the tone at the end too, to let them know that they have an opportunity to start treatment the same day, to save them a trip back. I mean, that's volumes right there, because now they have that expectation that they're able to come in. Getting that insurance information is always tricky, but it allows you to go through and validate what they have, so that when they come in for the consultation, it's smooth like butter, right? So I think another really great question to ask on those new patient calls is to ask if they've ever met the doctor before. If you're working with a practice where you're very involved in the community or the doctor's very sociable, that's a really great question to ask. And 8 out of 10 might say, no, I've never met the doctor. But the other two are going to say something along the lines of, yeah, met the doctor at the baseball game. Awesome. Can't wait to come in. What a great doctor, right? There might be this personal touch. And so when they're coming in for their consultation, doc may or may not remember that. But if you have that to share, that's gold, because
Yeah.
they're now going to think, oh, you remembered me. And they very well may, but maybe they also don't. So it's a really awkward scenario when you have someone who comes in that's met the doctor and doctor doesn't remember. So I think that question, even if the answer is going to be no most of the time, it's well worth it when the answer is yes. And the other side of that might be, no, I haven't, but my sister-in-law goes there and she loves them because X, Y, and Z, and get some more insight on that. And you might see what's important to them and why they're choosing to come to you. And it also allows you to build up your doctor and build up that relationship to make a connection, because right now you have to build that value.
And it might even be, no, I don't know them, but I've saw your ads everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah.
And that's like, okay, that's telling you that your ads are working, your billboards, your Facebook, whatever it is. But it also like helps you get a connection with them,
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, you're part of the community. You are involved. I know we talked to somebody, I can't remember what practice it was, but at the Friday night football games, right before the football game, about the hour or so, they'll hand out like pom-poms as people are going in. The practice does, and the doctor's there, and it's just an hour, but it's every home football game, but it's putting everybody in that community has to go past that orthodontist every time.
Yeah. That's the winning ticket right there.
Yeah, it's great. So make sure, I love that, and even kind of pre-framing some of the pricing as well. It's like, hey,
Mhm.
depending on insurance and this, that, and the other, it's going to be X down and as low as X a month or whatever, if you do
Right.
it that way. But that helps the TC not feel like they're surprising the person and they go into that fight or flight kind of brain pattern where it's like, oh, I got to figure out a way to get out of this. I need to talk to my spouse or whatever it is, it's
Mhm.
you're prepping them. And then when the TC calls them before their appointment, they can even remind them again, but that's setting that
Yeah.
expectation.
Yeah, setting the expectations to be able to start treatment the same day. What are they coming in for, right? If they don't want anything to do with braces, well, you're not talking about braces at that consultation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I just want Invisalign then, or whatever,
Mhm.
clear aligners and everything. So it
Yeah.
helps set the expectation and making great notes while you're on that call, like having that ability to just
Mhm.
be like, hey, that way when the TC gets a hold of them, they're not starting fresh, having that kind of workflow and everything. So let's talk
Yeah.
about a playbook here. Before any new campaign, you're pulling 3 reports. Which ones and what do they reveal for that campaign?
Reports before a campaign. Help me connect with the campaign.
So, like,
Like for
if you,
ads?
yeah, ads, or if you're like, okay, we're trying to do like a reactivation campaign, we're getting pendings
Mm.
or the observation and everything. It's like, what are the 3 things that you're trying to look at to make sure that that reactivation campaign goes well?
Yeah. I think you need to see obviously where you need to have it, right? Have you had a various amount of no-shows for some reason, or, do you need to do that in observation? So pinpointing where that needs to be, um, you know, running reports, obviously, and, who's scheduled, who's not scheduled is step one. So you want to look at, no shows. You want to look at, even people that have, if you're tracking people that have opted in that you haven't gotten in connection with. And then people that have also come in, had a consultation, but just fell into pending. That's another really great opportunity for a reactivation campaign and just reaching out with touch points, throw out an offer in there. Um, I'm so sorry. Can you repeat your question? You wanted 3 things for the
Yeah, 3
campaign to get
yeah,
started?
yeah, 3 things to get started on.
Yeah, so you want to run your reports, see, what's going to be valid, and then you want to do like an email blast and get it out there, get an offer situated, whether that's going to be for an extra set of retainers, a toothbrush, or something, and then you want to track that.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. So, hypothetical here, you're in a
Mhm.
practice, Adele, and you've uncovered a $500,000 gap that's in
Yeah.
the practice. Lay out your 30-day attack plan for trying to close that gap.
Yeah. Well, you obviously want to start with your reporting and you want to take a look at how long has it been since they've been in? What's the statistic side of things and have some knowledge around that. So to jump in and really take that by the reins, you want to pick up the phone and you're going to need more than one person on deck. So your treatment coordinator really should break that down as far as, this person's only missed one appointment, this person's missed however many appointments, and this has, been well over a year, and you want to delegate to have people in charge. So this is really like get a whole team on deck, have a party, make it a potluck if you need to, and come in and do an admin day and just call, send text messages, send emails out, and get postcards going. But on day one, you're going to recover maybe just a few, but you turn around, do it again the next day. And I swear it's like, oh, they called. That's right. I needed to get connected. And day two seems to like just move huge. So you want to go ahead and just make a call again, send a text message again, day two. But those lead, or not the leads, but the patients that have been sitting there for over a year, you're going to continue to reach out to. And I'd say once a week, pick a day, random times, don't do the same time, and do the 2 a day, right? Call in the morning, send a message in the afternoon, or send an email or make another phone call. When you get those 2 a day touches, I don't know, it just makes things move.
There you go. There's
Yeah.
another golden nugget, everybody. 2 a day when you really want to move the patients along.
Yeah,
Now, I've got one last question for you, Adele.
sure.
What's the first action anyone that's listening that actually wants to improve their practice, what should they do as soon as this stream ends?
You want to take a look at your reports and you want to ask yourself, do I have a system in place? What is my team doing? Right? And if you don't know, then you want to form a system, but you want to do it with a lot of motivation.
What's a good motivation?
You want to give those attaboys, right? Hey guys, the goal is going to be to make X amount of phone calls because we have this many patients sitting here and they need an appointment. Great. Get a big whiteboard out if you have to. Put a piece of paper, get some stickers out, make it fun, make it engaging. And if we make that happen, great. We're going to do it again tomorrow. And tomorrow, if we kill it like this, I'm going to get everybody pizza.
I love
Little
that.
motivation.
Like, yeah, like having it visually
Always.
like is so much more impactful, and it's literally scientifically proven. If you write down a goal and see it, you're more apt to actually do it, which I love.
Yeah.
Well, that is our stream, everybody. Make sure to like and subscribe to our weekly podcast, the Grow Ortho Podcast and the Grow Dental Podcast, to hear more content just like this that can help your practice grow. Because Mark Twain said it best, the secret of getting ahead is getting started. So get out there and get started making the changes you want to see in your practice now. This has been Zach.
And this is Adele.
Thank you for watching the Grow Ortho live stream.